Samson Kasumba, and I do have Jagwe Michael on sign language. But just before we go anywhere, let us get through the headlines.
The headlines brought to you by.
Now available in the new look on the Radiant Hair Relaxer with herbal extracts and no base formula. Radiant. Look good. Feel great.
President Yoweri Museveni commits to providing more than 2 billion shillings for each district for roads. He demands for a road improvement plan from each district,
so that we have the tarmac roads which are there, but also the good Maram roads.
So cows, I'm warning you and I'm advising you.
IGG warns chief administrative officers against being used by top government officials. He says you risk being jailed.
You are the one who will use your job. You are the one who will use your credibility.
And sports has not included salary increments for both the arts teachers.
Education Committee urges finance to provide money for enhancing arts teachers' salaries in the next financial year's budget.
That will harmonize the issue of salaries.
The headlines brought to you by.
Now available in the new look on the Radiant Hair Relaxer with herbal extracts and no base formula. Radiant. Look good. Feel great.
A very good evening again, and thank you so much for joining us to this edition of NBS Live at 9. I'm here with Jagwe Michael, as I said. He is on sign language, and I'm Samson Kasumba. We'll begin with President Yoweri Museveni that has tasked local governments to table their ideas that will help improve the state of Maram roads in the country, which are mostly used by locals in the villages. Museveni says the government is ready to release more than 2 billion shillings for each district road fund to ensure that the roads are in good shape. The call was made during the closing ceremony of the Light Up Bunyoro for Jesus Crusade that was organized by his daughter, Patience Rwabugo. We have details in this story that kicks us off.
Many of the Maram roads in Bunyoro are in a sorry state. Some have huge potholes that are almost cutting off villages. With the president's visit to Masindi district at the Light Up Bunyoro for Jesus Crusade, local leaders took advantage of his visit to decry the inadequate funding for local governments, especially road construction, saying most roads are in a sorry state.
Your Excellency, Bunyoro and the entire country is faced with a problem of money for roads. Give an example, Masindi received 356 million only in the last financial year. Took after 431 kilometers for the district and 700 kilometers for sub-county. That would mean a kilometer going for about 300,000. This is not enough.
The president, in his response, agreed that the situation has to change.
When Jacob Olanya was alive, he had suggested that we put about 1 billion shillings per district. But we have not been putting enough money to maintain the tarmac roads, also to work on the Maram roads. And yet, majority of the people don't use tarmac road, they use Maram.
It's here that it asked local governments to table plans on how they can improve roads, since the government is ready to allocate more than 2 billion shillings to each district road fund.
You, the local government, you bring your ideas, what can be adequate, so that we have the tarmac roads which are there, but also the good Maram roads.
In some districts, the nature of the soil and terrain has made it more expensive for local governments to construct and maintain roads, which in turn cripples service delivery. Some districts gate as low as 50 million shillings for roads. This was during the Light Bunyoro for Jesus Crusade, organized by the first daughter, Patience Rwabugo, at a ceremony that was meant to liberate the people of Bunyoro from spiritual bondage.
I've had repentance here between the Bunyoro and the Baganda. For the historical bad blood and suspicion that existed between the two tribes. We have also had repentance between the Bunyoro and all the other tribes who are here in Bunyoro.
Shamim Namakoza, Cuthbert Chigozi, NBS, Live at 9.
Over to matters accountability, the Inspector General of Government, Betty Olive Namisango Kamya, has warned chief administrative officers to avoid being used by top government officials in aiding corruption. The IGG argues that often chief administrative officers have had to be interdicted and others arrested due to failure to account for finances. The IGG was in Ankole sub-region where she made spot checks at the district local governments and health centers in Barara and Ntungamo. Alex Mugasha was there and he reports.
Fighting corruption in Uganda remains largely on paper and boardrooms, yet the effects of the vice are immense on the taxpayer. But given the rampant corruption in local governments, the Inspector General of Government, Betty Olive Namisango Kamya, has embarked on a ground spot check and sensitization of the masses to involve taxpayers in the fight against corruption. While meeting the people of Mbarara and Ntungamo districts respectively, Kamya noted that the government continues to register shoddy work on a number of government projects, especially in health, education and road sector due to corruption. It's here that the IGG warned the chief administrative officers to avoid being used as scapegoats in corruption.
So cows, I'm warning you and I'm advising you, don't be used. You are the one who will use your job, you are the one who will use your credibility, you are the one who will be ashamed in front of your children, you are the one who will suffer. All because you are covering up for somebody.
I actually even suggested to her that the IGG, the IG office, should come up with a strategy of putting whistleblowers boxes at all government facilities to enable the citizens to write down whatever they find out on those facilities.
During the tour, the IGG made spot checks at Wiziwera Health Center 4 in Mbarara District and Rubare Health Center 4, where she found no drugs and insufficient doctors.
Patients say that they don't get medicine. So we are going to investigate that. We took prescriptions, copies of prescriptions, and we took a copy of the inventory of medicine for that period. We want to see whether the prescription matches with the inventory.
Wiziwera Health Center 4, of course, has 2 doctors, one of whom one is on study leave, and one is doing both management and the general surgery.
With the lifestyle audit and whistleblower strategies as the latest approach to fight corruption by the IGG, the inspectorate is confident that in the next 2 years, the vice will have reduced. Alex Mugasha, NBS, Live at 9.
Now, a section of legislators and economists are in agreement over the shillings 200 proposed fuel levy. They said that the tax could see the country raise revenues in excess of 450 billion shillings to fill the funding gap of the Uganda Road Fund should it be operationalized, whereas they are cognizant of the economic shocks that will stem from this particular levy. These economists note that this will be short-lived and will trigger demand for accountability. Olivia Nakalembe is on this one.
In a proposal tabled by legislators that sit on the Finance Committee, key among them was the 200 shillings levy on every litre of fuel.
If we add 200 shillings to each litre and you sensitize the laboratories that we are adding 200 shillings so that your vehicle can pass on a motorable road, they will pay the money.
Legislator Patrick Omara, who sits on the Finance Committee, shares what prompted this move.
It's part of our fuel tax component. I think the one that is supposed to go to Uganda Road Fund, which has never been remitted, is about 400 shillings on a litre of fuel that you pay. That one should have gone to Road Fund. At the moment, it's not going. There's an environmental levy. There's a road tax levy, which should have gone also to the Uganda Road Fund. Because it has not been operationalized, it goes into the consolidated fund. And that money is used, the Ministry of Finance would use it the way they want on the priorities that they have. So denying the people of Uganda who live in the countryside sufficient money to work on their roads.
This can only be made possible if the road fund can be operationalized.
We decentralized without decentralizing revenue. So now that law actually gives the Uganda Road Fund Act stipulates that this money should actually go to it. We must operationalize it.
The proposed tax will see the taxman raise over 400 billion shillings, inclusive of the 200 shillings fuel levy sent directly to the road fund. Economist David Walakira says there's no right time to levy tax.
Good or bad, there's no right time to levy a tax. Let's pick up and let's rally as many of us as possible to begin asking the critical questions. When this revenue is mobilized, what does it do? Now, that candid discussion on when we get in touch with all those reports that are done for us by the Auditor General, let's begin to internalize them as a people, as a country, and ask our leaders the tough questions.
Walakira is cognizant of the likely spillover effects.
It will push through a short-term or to medium-term shocking rise in all those, for example, transport services that are definitely strongly linked on the use of fuel, and a few other commodities that are distributed in areas where they are not. Okay, so there will be that kind of increase in price. That will not augur well with the current state of inflation, but I believe that within the short to medium term, that should even out.
It's expected that the operationalization of the road fund will happen by the 31st of June this financial year. Olivia Nakalembe, NBS, Live at 9.
Over to matters education. The Education Committee of Parliament is asking the Ministry of Finance to provide money for salary enhancement of secondary school and primary school art teachers in the 2023-2024 financial year budget before they choose to go back on strike. The proposed budget has increased by over 600 billion, but arts teachers are not catered for in the increment. Shamim Nabakoza has her eye on this.
Although the proposed budget for the Ministry of Education and Sports has increased from 3.9 trillion shillings to 4.5 trillion in the financial year 2023-2024, budgets for 18 votes and subventions under the ministry have suffered huge budget cuts to the tune of 80%. The increment has been facilitated by 578 billion shillings for enhancement of teachers' salaries, increased development expenditure for the Ministry of Education and Sports, UNEP, Bara University, Lira University, Muni University, Uganda Management Institute and National Curriculum Development Center.
So, Chair, we realize that the increase in the budget is mainly on the wage component of the local governments. And this is close, I think it's about to 572 billion. However, much as the increment is noticed, but it awaits harmonization by Ministry of Education and that of Public Service.
While presenting a report for the 2023-2024 budget framework paper for agencies in the education sector to the Budget Committee of Parliament, the Vice Chairperson of the Education Committee, Cuthbert Abigaba, urged the Budget Committee to find money for arts teachers in secondary and primary teachers before they go on strike.
The committee further notes that the Ministry of Education and Sports has not included salary increments for both the arts teachers in secondary schools and teachers in primary schools in its budgetary allocations for the coming financial year. So we recommend as a committee that the Ministry of Education and Sports harmonizes with the Ministry of Finance.
That we harmonize the issue of salaries. These discrepancies are the ones that brought even issues in some entities of government. You find UNRWA getting a lot of money, government agencies getting different salaries. So we should harmonize to have our colleagues, at nearly the same level.
The Ministry of Education wants Parliament to reverse the proposed budget cuts in the education sector amounting to 170.95 billion shillings, which have affected critical items in the sector, including students' loan scheme and sports, among others.
The teacher policy implementation, higher education, and also sports. So a total of Uganda shillings 170.95 billion has been cut from these activities as per Annex 1. So So as a committee, we recommend that the Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development reinstates the cut money, which was cut from various...
On top of the budget cuts, the ministry is grappling with a huge funding gap of 774 billion shillings due to key unfunded priorities. These include grant aiding of schools, which has a shortfall of 34 billion shillings. 620 schools across the country that have requested for government takeover, but the ministry has no money.
See, in your report, there is a crisis in higher institutions of learning in terms of academic staff. A university with one professor, you can imagine.
Yet money for seed schools. Chairperson, I want to tell you that there is a lot of shoulder work that is being done. There is an embarrassment in my constituency.
However, budget committee members have called for realignment of the budget for the education sector to find money for the key strategic unfunded priorities of the sector.
Honorable Chair, there is a big problem in the country in that those who qualify to go for government scholarship are those who have money, who can actually pay their primary education in good primary school, and they go in secondary education in good secondary school, and they end up getting the government sponsorship.
Legislators have also proposed reforms in the policy on the government scholarships to benefit needy children. MPs contend that government scholarships and the student loan scheme benefit children of the rich who can afford elite-class schools around Kampala and Wakiso. Shamim Nawakoza, NBS, Live at 9.
Over to celebratory mood as the NRM administration celebrates 27 years in power. Analysts look back at the education sector since the NRM took power, and the question is how the government has been able to steer that one. Despite many achievements like the high literacy rate, a lot still needs to be done to address 21st century needs, putting much focus on skilling Ugandan learners.
The education sector has had a number of changes under the current administration of the National Resistance Movement. When Museveni captured power in 1986, his government commissioned the Professor Senteza Kajuri Commission to make all the relevant changes needed in the sector. In 1987, the National Education Policy Review Commission, under the chairmanship of Professor Senteza Kajuri, was set up. The Commission came up with a number of recommendations that still run the sector to date. From the Professor Senteza Kajuri's Education White Paper of 1992, government liberalized the education sector in the 1990s, which eased access to education and saw several private schools and higher institutions coming up as long as one fulfilled all the requirements set by the Ministry of Education and Sports. In 1997, universal primary education was introduced to provide free education for the underprivileged that could not afford high-end private schools. This attracted many and the enrollment shot up to millions, though completion still remained a challenge.
Even when our economy was still very small, we said, "Abana bonna basomere bwerere."
The Uganda National Teachers Union says the NRM administration has made tremendous improvements in the sector, though remains with some gaps that need to be filled. Baguma says the liberalization of the sector that came with the NRM government has left a lot to be desired. He says government should tighten the noose and increase supervision of all schools in the country. The Union's Secretary General Philbert Baguma says government introduced free education to the underprivileged at lower levels, but at university it turns out to be the reverse.
The poorest of the poor remain disadvantaged.
He says picking up on the best performers leaves those who went through public schools at a disadvantage, since most of them get average scores despite their need for assistance.
Bursaries should be targeting these children who have gone through these programs, not the children who have gone through private schools, because those who are in private schools have the capacity to pay for themselves, and therefore government would be supporting its program by way of sponsoring the graduates from these programs of government.
Baguma says this in the end will empower public schools. Much as the sector is growing at a fast rate, critics believe the liberalization policy has affected the sector. Dr. Fred Muhumuza, a lecturer at Makerere University, says the NRM had a lot of fundamental policy reforms that have helped the sector to grow.
Anybody who wants to set up a school, you can. But you should only within the regulations. So we have seen government doing its role in making sure regulation of schools is done. You have the National Council for Higher Education, you have the Ministry of Education licensing the school, so not everybody just sets up a school. That's the role of government, and they have done it perfectly well. And the response has been immense.
Muhumuza also points at the quality in this liberalized sector, saying the high enrollment that came with liberalization and free education should move along with quality.
Now, most people kept praising UPE and USE. Said, no, we have brought universal primary education, we have brought universal secondary education. The numbers have surged from 5 million to 8 million. We said, but what about quality? And so on government record, most of government officials would say, we shall address the quality later. And we said, no, there can't be later. Because the children who are in school now must benefit from the current quality, not the future quality.
Under the current arrangement, the government is putting much emphasis on science subjects by paying scientists better. But this, Dr. Chigundu says, is derailing the sector and should be revised.
We should stop the issue of having a blanket say that it is science. It is what you do out of the science, the innovation that you make, that is going to help the country to take to a certain direction that should earn that funding.
They may pretend that teachers are in schools teaching, that teachers have no problem. But in actual sense, the teachers of arts, the teachers of primary feel they have been humiliated, they have been degraded, and therefore there is no morale.
There are other areas that can afford to be in politicking, but this education is key. So those in authorities now, the ministry and the ministers are supposed to look at that as key so that we can change the education system to have a new product. Now the world has changed.
Chigundu says out of the many achievements the NRM government has had in the education sector, it is high time the strategy is changed to produce a self-reliant learner with much focus on skills development other than looking at the high marks in the national exams. Chigundu says much emphasis should be put on skills development, investing in technology, and addressing salary disparities, among others, in order to address the current needs. Jackie Mutasi, Salma Namwanje, NBS, Live at 9.
Generally, the newsroom does have quite a number of stories, and some of those don't make it here on NBS Live at 9, and certainly not on the first segment. So it's a good idea to look out for www.nowpost.co.ug for some of those stories. For now, we head into a break.
More to come, brought to you by
Make your building a paradise. We have weather coat emulsion, undercoat emulsion, silk vinyl emulsion, flat emulsion, super gloss and high gloss. Global Paint, a reliable product.
In still to come, reclaiming wetlands in Lango sub-region. RDCs in Lango sub-region meet over continued encroachment.
We discovered some of them have been sold. Some of them are being hired out.
More to come, brought to you by
Make your building a paradise. We have weather coat emulsion, undercoat emulsion, silk vinyl emulsion, flat emulsion, super gloss and high gloss. Global Paint, a reliable product.
The Tales of Kasozi, brought to you by Uganda Communications Commission.
Yes, hello? This is Kasozi. How can I help you?
Calling you from the mobile service center.
Okay. So how can I help you?
Well, we have noticed a few things wrong with your number and need your mobile money PIN.
John Ferrer, never give out your password or PIN to any caller. Your mobile service provider will never call or ask for your personal details. If in doubt, go to your nearest phone service center.
This message is powered by UCC, MTN, Airtel, Bank of Uganda, and NPSP Association.
Beware of this WhatsApp scam. WhatsApp users need to be on the lookout for a cunning scam that allows criminals to access their WhatsApp contacts and lock them out of their accounts. If you receive a random message claiming a 6-digit PIN code was mistakenly sent to you, your friend's account has been hacked, scammers are now trying to hack all your contacts, including you. Never share verification codes with strangers over the internet. For more tips, visit www.consumer.co.ug.
So, this is where it all began. Those styles weren't working.
So we made something better.
And you didn't stop there.
We knew we weren't changing the world with our clothes, but the women who wear them might.
And you went from playing with dolls
To becoming a fashion powerhouse.
We see your braids. Katukuyambe Okusensamu with Absa Business Banking. Speak to us about how we can help you get it done. That's Africanacity. That's Absa.
MTN Momo esaze emiwendo gy'okuweereza ssente. Gino emiwendo egy'okuweereza Momo egikyasinze okuba wansi. Kati ku MTN Momo osobola okuweereza ssente ku muwendo gwe gumu ogwa wansi mu ggwanga lyonna, ku mikutu gyonna ne mu nsi endala. Nyiga *165*# oba kozesa MTN Momo app oweereze ssente ku muwendo gwe gumu ogwa wansi okwetooloola ensi yonna. Weereza ssente ne MTN Momo era okole bingi ne ssente zo. Enkola n'obukwakkulizo bigobererwa. MTN Mobile Money Limited erungamizibwa Bank of Uganda.
Thank you. Hello, Eric. Come and see my new home.
Are you looking for the best quality paint for your dream home? Be part of the new revolution with our Global Paint Silk Vinyl that gives you beautiful, shining interior walls, as WeatherCoat gives you never fading and strongly guarded walls against bad weather conditions.
To us painters, Global Paints, WeatherCoat, and Global Paints, Silk Vinyl is our choice.
Located along Banda Chirika Ginger Highway and Namavi Industrial Park, Global Paints, a reliable product.
Work. Work's over. Busy biters, get down to snack business. When snacking is under attack, we'll be there to fight back.
Welcome back to NBS Live at 9. Now, parents in Kirwa Primary School in Riakarimira, this is a difficult one. Let me try it again. Riakarimira Town Council in Kabale District have turned to bricklaying to provide accommodation for teachers. The decision follows a teacher's absenteeism, with learners going for days without studying. Well, that was some name.
A visit to this school, one sets eyes on parents busy engaged at the Kirwa Primary School premises. Parents say that the school lacks enough classrooms and accommodation for teachers. These parents say that upon realization that their children are missing out on education, they resorted to laying bricks to be able to construct houses and provide accommodation for the teachers. These parents also told our reporter that most of the teachers allocated to the school come from far and have to trek several kilometers daily. According to parents, the education standards will improve since the teachers will be staying near the school.
Echindarebo bwegese burateekwa kushanga bwaza mutindo abo kwa bazere bamba abegesa barabari hamwanya bayicire hishumira abana bayija bashanga ba master bariho.
They are, however, calling upon the government to increase funding and improve the welfare of teachers. According to pupils who attain education at Kirwa Primary School, they have been facing a challenge of reaching school early and find no teachers, and as a result, they play the whole day. The Kabale District Education Officer, Wenje Moses, hailed parents for being supportive and ensuring their children attain education, but plans are underway to construct houses for teachers.
Chigwa Primary School is in our work plans. It is a government-aided primary school. Number one, the parents are making bricks to construct staff houses, and as a district, we shall support them when they reach the roofing stage by providing them with iron sheets.
Kirwa Primary School is a government-funded school and has over 464 pupils. Alex Mugasha, Lukia Nantaba, NBS, Live at 9.
Still on education, but higher education, President Yoweri Museveni has urged institutions of higher learning to tailor their academic programs towards the demands of the labor market in the private sector. This was during the 31st Islamic University in Uganda graduation ceremony in Mbale this afternoon.
Islamic University has graduated over 1,989 students in different disciplines, ranging from certificate to master programs during the 31st graduation ceremony held at the university main campus in Mbale.
54% are females and 46% are males, indicating IUIU's commitment to the girl-child education.
178 students hit the first class mark, followed by 859 in the second class. 3 students excelled in academics disciplines and other competencies, including the Prince Badru Kakungulu Award.
It is about prayer planning, and that after maybe leaving office work, at night, maybe at around late in the night, I go and read.
The Minister of State for Housing, Persis Namuganza, graduated with a diploma in law. Next media reporter Salman Namwanje also graduated with a bachelor's in mass communication.
It has not been so easy, but with the help of my colleagues at work and all the people around me, I've managed to make it.
The rector IUIU, Dr. Ismail Simbwa Jagenda, highlighted some of the milestones registered by the university, including winning the National Consumer Choice Award and the European Quality Award.
This European Quality Award comes with the rights to use the trademark of the Europe Business Assembly Corporation of Social Partnership license for 3 years for marketing purposes.
IUIU also moved from the 12th to the 9th position in the Webometrics ranking in Uganda.
First, I attribute these awards and the rise in ranking to our staff, both the academic and support staff, as well as the managers, administrators and students who are dedicated and very hardworking.
President Yoweri Museveni, in his message delivered by the State Minister for Foreign Affairs, John Mulimba, congratulated the graduates upon the milestone and urged them to use the acquired skills to solve social problems.
Your overriding aim must at present be move Uganda several paces forward from where you are today. In your chosen career, whether in law, or education, or business, your only ambition should be to do good, to be of good service to those who may be in need.
Museveni highlighted the concern of unemployment, attributing it to irrelevant skills.
Due to lack of career guidance in schools, fewer students are choosing sciences and ICT-based courses. This creates a mismatch between universal curriculum and job market in the private sector. The outcome is the unemployment problem among the young graduates who roam streets in search for non-existent jobs because they qualified in unmarketed courses.
Olivia Nakalembe, Gerald Matembo, NBS, Live at 9.
The State Minister for East African Community Affairs, James Magode Ikuye, has asked entrepreneurs in the region to take advantage of the global connectivity to access overseas markets. Ikuye, however, warns entrepreneurs to be mindful of quality if they are to compete favorably on the global stage.
Ugandan entrepreneurs are being urged to ride on their regional competitive advantage to tap into the overseas markets. The State Minister for East African Community Affairs, James Magode, implored Ugandan entrepreneurs to look beyond the regional borders and explore other markets.
So we are linked with the rest of the world by geography, and also linked to each other. That therefore we have inseparable areas of being together, and we must live that way. So I'm glad, therefore, to say that part of my association with you today begins a new chapter.
Ikuye wants that for entrepreneurs to be able to increase export volumes, they must ensure quality products or else be rejected.
We think it very crucial that the question of trade is one of the biggest strands that we need to build on so that we can ensure that the other strands which will be missing, cultural, linguistic, geographic, because geography, we are already united by geography.
The chairperson, Board of Directors, East African Entrepreneurs Association, Martin Okum, however, insists that they still find it hard to access cheap machinery on the local market.
EAEA is about transfer of technology. Technology which is in Japan, you need to transfer it here. Technology which is in India, you need to transfer it here. So under EAEA, we shall help you transfer technology, simple technology. You don't need complicated technology in a third world country like Uganda.
In other news, residents of Namuongo, a Kampala suburb, together with their local leaders and health workers, want Kampala Capital City Authority to energize health-related awareness campaigns as one way of preventing diseases.
To clean up the drainage system, we have to educate people on how to be clean around their homesteads.
This as Sikea, formerly known as Kampala International Hospital, extended free community health services to the area where officials identified unhygienic environments as the major factor for the unending disease burden. Most of the residents here lack toilets, a situation worsened by poor drainage systems and poor garbage disposal. Namuongo is a high-risk city suburb inhabiting underprivileged citizens and low-income households.
This program we decided to give dewormers to the children. We are also giving HPV vaccines to the girls who are growing up, considering this is a cervical cancer month. We also decided to do a community cleanup.
As part of their sustainability program, to care for the marginalized community, Sikea offered general cleaning activities, free health information, deworming of children, and administered girls with HPV vaccines to protect them against cervical cancer. Elsewhere, locals in Changwari Sub-County, Chikube District have stormed Nsozi Health Center 3, protesting the absenteeism of health workers. The locals say that the absenteeism of the health workers has denied them access to the required health services. The locals, who had no kind words for the health workers, pinned the hospital in charge, Dr. Ausita Lemwa, accusing him of denying the required health services. Henry Mugenyi, Julius Chitone, NBS, Live at 9.
Don't forget to check on www.nowpost.co.ug. We'll be back right after these messages.
Ni Nivana wafe twenywele, nivana wafe twenywele, nivana wafe tunyola. Eish, 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 eish. Twenywele, nivana wafe tunyola. For my girls, kumala kenyonta.
Nivana packaged drinking water is a product of Crown Beverages